Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the city of Bethlehem, and especially here at the Bethlehem Fire Department Memorial Fire Station Company 6. We have some fantastic people joining us today. With us today, Senator Boscola, Representative McNeil, Representative Samuelson, Representative O'Mara, Representative Schlossberg, Mayor Reynolds, Northampton County Executive Lamont McClure, and representatives from City Council. We have with us also Deputy State Fire Commissioner J.C. Todorsky, Pennsylvania Professional Firefighter Association President Robert Brooks, but he'll always be Bobby to me, and he just recently retired from the city of Bethlehem, and our very own Bethlehem Local 735 President Lou Jimenez. But I would especially like to extend a warm welcome to Governor Shapiro. Governor, we are truly honored to have you here with us today. We're so relieved that you and your family are safe, and we deeply appreciate you being here at Bethlehem after the attack on your home. What happened last weekend was absolutely outrageous. And we all feel grateful that the suspect has been arrested and will be brought to justice. The swift action of emergency personnel following the attack and the successful resolution of the emergency is a perfect example of the dedication and professionalism that brings us together today. The Bethlehem Fire Department has a long and proud history, serving this community for over a century. We are currently made up of 104 dedicated fire professionals and 27 life-saving paramedics. Under the leadership of Mayor Reynolds and support from City Council, we've made incredible strides in recent years. Their commitment of over $4 million has allowed us to purchase 3 ambulances, 3 fire engines, a water rescue boat, and 5 crucial support vehicles. We've also been fortunate to receive over $130,000 in state funding during that same time period, which has enabled us to purchase essential equipment such as a fast board, fire investigation equipment, a training mannequin, IV pumps, power saws, power fans, a bomb suit, and a new firefighting foam that does not contain PFAS chemicals. Looking ahead, Governor Shapiro's call for an additional $30 million in competitive grant funding for fire companies is absolutely vital. This funding will empower departments across the state to invest in equipment, recruit and retain our skilled firefighters, and most importantly, fund much-needed cancer screenings. The reality is that firefighters face a significantly elevated risk of cancer. And the governor's proposed cancer screening funding is a critical step towards ensuring early detection and treatment for these brave first responders. And that's why I'm proud to introduce to you a true champion of firefighters across the Commonwealth, a leader who understands the challenges we face and is committed to providing the resources we need. Pennsylvania's Governor, Josh Shapiro.
Thank you. Chief, thank you very much. It is an honor to be here at your firehouse. It's especially an honor to be here with the men that make up this great department. I want to thank you for the bravery and the commitment that you show each day to the good people of Bethlehem. We're thankful for your service. We're thankful for the service of firefighters like them all across this great Commonwealth. We're also thankful for the people that support them. I'm mindful that I'm here in Bethlehem with my friend of probably 15 years at this point, Mayor Willie Reynolds. I want to say thank you to the mayor, and I hope that the mayor's mom, who's here, is listening, that you know he's one of the finest leaders in the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And you heard from the chief just a moment ago the commitment that the mayor and the councilwoman who is here as well, councilwoman who is here as well, have made to this department, have made to first responders, have made to law enforcement, is really second to none. I want to thank them very, very much for the work that they do. I also want to thank a friend to all of you in this firehouse and a friend of mine for many years, and someone who doesn't just go out fighting fires as he has done over the last 2 decades, or someone probably who bust chops in the kitchen here at the hall, but someone who also knows how to put on a suit and walk the halls and the corridors of power in Harrisburg and get things done for firefighters every day. And that is our friend Bob Brooks. Bob is a leader, obviously, for the firefighters, the leader for the firefighters across Pennsylvania. But he's known in this community as someone who has served ably for 20 years, all 20 here in Bethlehem. He recently retired, so now he's got more time available to bust our chops, I'm sure, but also more time to advocate for firefighters across Pennsylvania. And Bobby, we're thankful for your leadership. I'm joined today by several elected leaders who you'll hear from in just a moment. Leaders from this community, including Representative McNeil and Representative Samuelson and Representative Schlossberg. Also joined by a representative from Delaware County. I'll explain why in a moment, Representative O'Mara, and of course, our Senator Lisa Boscola, who represents this community so ably. I've always known the greatness and the bravery of firefighters. A few days ago, my family and I witnessed that firsthand as we were forced out of the governor's residence at 2 o'clock in the morning as firefighters rushed in. I want you to think about that for a moment. As we were fleeing to safety, firefighters were rushing to danger. It's something I've always appreciated about our firefighters across Pennsylvania, but it's something I got the chance to witness firsthand. My family got the chance to witness firsthand just a few days ago. We are so grateful to the firefighters and first responders who rush toward danger. We wouldn't be here today but for them. Yesterday, we had the opportunity to serve them lunch and say thank you and get the opportunity to talk with them privately and just to say thank you to them and thank you to everyone across this Commonwealth who puts on any sort of uniform to rush toward danger to keep the rest of us safe. I think that's particularly true here in Bethlehem, where these brave men and women rush toward danger every single day. This is a wonderful community, in part because of its leaders and those who put on the uniform to keep us safe. In part because you've got the greatest Main Street in all of America, right, Mayor? We do. And I know Mayor Reynolds deserves a ton of credit for that. Here's a fun fact for all of you. My longtime chief of staff, Dana Fritz, who grew up in this community, her first job was on Main Street in Bethlehem. This is a wonderful place to work, a wonderful place to go and enjoy a meal, one of our craft breweries, or any time you get the chance to walk down Main Street in Bethlehem, it is a good day. And I want to say to all of you, thanks for just making this a wonderful community, a safe community, a community where people have the opportunity to enjoy one another. You firefighters, though, I know, are always there to keep that Main Street and the rest of the community safe. You are there to have our backs and we to have yours. Throughout my entire career, I've always tried to stand by our firefighters. Last year in the state budget that was passed with the help of every legislator who stands up here today, we invested $37.5 million in grants for equipment, training, facility upgrades, and operational costs to cover 2,500 local fire and EMS departments. You heard from the chief a moment ago how they've been able to deploy those grants to help keep the people of Bethlehem safe. Bethlehem Fire and EMS used their share of that funding to purchase new equipment and to help people who need rescuing, particularly in car crashes. In our first budget that we passed all together, we also increased the surcharge on 911 to be able to invest more in our 911 operators. Literally, the folks who get that first call and have to dispatch police and fire and EMS. Last October, I was privileged to sign legislation, bipartisan legislation, expanding our workers' compensation to include PTSI for Pennsylvania's first responders and firefighters finally get what they are owed. The reason Representative O'Mara, a representative from Delaware County, is here is because she sponsored that legislation. You'll hear her family's personal story with PTSI. And Representative O'Mara, I want to thank you for your leadership. We appreciate you very much. I want you to know these are just a few examples of the steps we've taken to look out for our firefighters. This is not new to me or any of the elected leaders up here. We'll continue to have your back. To elucidate that point, I'll share with you that just days after I signed our last budget, which contained numerous investments for our firefighters, Bob Brooks came to see me. Bob and I talked about the need to do more for firefighters. That while the grant programs were good, they weren't tailored enough to meet the needs of all of the different fire departments across Pennsylvania. That we need to do more on recruitment. We need to do more on retention. We need to do more on cancer screenings. I made a commitment to him that day that we would come back in our next budget and our next legislative session, and we would do more. And that's exactly what we're doing. I want you to know that it was the urging of your guy, Bobby Brooks, who put this new work into action. Contained in my budget, which I announced back in February, and I know is supported by the lawmakers up here. We have a three-part plan for our firefighters to include everything we did before and these new things. First, to create a competitive $30 million funding stream for our fire companies on top of the existing $30 million that gets distributed to every fire company across Pennsylvania. These new competitive grants will help fire companies purchase equipment, recruit and retain firefighters, and meet the unique needs of a Bethlehem or any other community across Pennsylvania. Second, we're creating a pilot program to help fire companies that want to collaborate more and share services to get more of the resources they need to be able to work together in their communities. And third, it builds on the progress we made last year when I signed that PTSI legislation into law to make sure that going forward, we ensure that annual cancer screenings for firefighters are covered at the state level. Firefighters expose themselves to toxic chemicals while on the job to keep us safe. We owe it to them to make sure they have peace of mind, to make sure they are getting this checkup every year. You know, Lori and I have been just unbelievably bolstered and strengthened by the prayers and support that we've received from so many across Pennsylvania. But we're mindful that we're not the only victims of fires across this Commonwealth. And what I'd ask of every Pennsylvanian is, yes, continue your prayers and continue to share your warm wishes. We appreciate that. We're comforted by that. But I also want you to call your lawmakers and tell them that the best way you can help all of us in Pennsylvania, every victim of a fire, is to pass my budget and support our firefighters who need the support right now. To step up and show up here at Bethlehem or any other fire company, just shake the hands of a firefighter and say thank you. When they walk down the street, even in times that aren't dangerous, nod your head and thank them for their service. And of course, when you're fleeing danger and they are running toward it, acknowledge that, understand that, know that these are the people who make up the fabric of our community and respect them every single day, not just in times of tragedy. We appreciate the prayers, as I said, and we appreciate the extraordinary support that we have received from everyone in this community. And I appreciate the friendship of Bobby Brooks, who has done so much, not just for here in Bethlehem, but for firefighters all across Pennsylvania. And with that, it's my privilege to invite Bobby Brooks to say a few words. Bobby?
Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Governor Shapiro, Chief Reich, also known as Michael or Mike to me forever, right? If he can do it, I can do it. So I'll start with, I've been a firefighter for over 20 years. I retired from this station. This is home just a few weeks ago. These guys thought they could get rid of me, but it doesn't happen. I'm here today as the president of the Pennsylvania Professional Firefighters Association, we represent over 7,000 first responders. Every day we are advocating on behalf of our brothers and sisters, whether it's in Harrisburg or Washington, D.C., fighting to improve the safety and well-being of our members who show up 24 hours a day, 365 days per year. I've gotten to know Governor Shapiro pretty well over the years. He is not new to fighting for first responders. He was standing with us last year when we enacted the benefits for post-traumatic stress injuries that was sponsored by Representative Jen Omar, who is with us today, as you've heard. That was a long battle that required us to work in a bipartisan manner to get the job done, which we facilitated and got to happen. But there is so much more work to do. In Pennsylvania, emergency management often begins at the local level where their first responders are fulfilling vital public safety roles. Many of the challenges we face are not new. There's a lack of volunteers, we all know, rising costs, lack of resources. We can't fund public safety one bake sale at a time. We need to make public safety a priority at budget time, which Governor Shapiro has clearly done. That's why we are pleased to be here to support Governor Shapiro's proposal for $30 million for competitive grants to fire companies to meet a variety of needs, including recruitment and retention. We'll talk about those. Equipment and general operating expenses. The fire protection supply chain has been negatively impacted in recent years. Private equity firms have been consolidating the manufacturers, reducing competition, hiking prices as the backlog of orders grow by years. Prices for ladder trucks have jumped from $750,000 to $900,000 in the mid-2010s to around $2 million today. While pumper trucks now often cost over $1 million. It can cost nearly $10,000 to outfit one firefighter with breathing apparatus, coat, pants, boots, gloves, helmets, and goggles. These additional grants are very much needed. We appreciate the governor's proposal to keep first responders safe. I also want to thank him for his support in keeping first responders healthy. He also recognized that the nature of the job increases our likelihood of being diagnosed with many cancers. So he is fighting to provide cancer screenings for firefighters because early detection makes a significant difference in the treatment outcomes. And removing the PFAS, the forever chemicals, from our gear and from the foam is essential. Governor, thank you for visiting Bethlehem, Fire Company number 6. This is where I grew, I lived, and just retired from. This is home. And when I asked you to come to my house, you obliged. Thanks, Amanda. Amanda's key, right? So I'm glad you've been able to see my station, meet my crew. I'm grateful for our friendship. I appreciate your support and look forward to working with you for years to come. At this point, I would like to introduce the Honorable Mayor of Bethlehem, G. William Reynolds. Otherwise known as Reynolds.
Thank you, Bob. And first, thank you for a distinguished career and everything you've done for firefighters. This is, once again, an honor. I think it was only a few weeks ago, Governor, that we saw you here. But a couple weeks ago, the governor came here because to honor both our past, but talk about some of the things going on with the economics of the country. But the backbone of all of our success, the Main Street, the job creation is public safety. And the backbone of why people want to live and invest in the city of Bethlehem is because we're the safest city in Pennsylvania, and we understand how to get things done. And a big part of that is working with our state and federal officials. And I need to thank you, Governor, and first let me join the chorus of people sending out all of our prayers to Lori and Max and Sophia and everybody, because people across this Commonwealth really, really, really are shaken, but also caring about your family and what's happened. The path to success is a bipartisan one when we work together. Here in the city of Bethlehem, when we sit down and it's me and Chief Reich and our council people, and I want to give a shout out to Lou Jimenez, who is the local president of the union, who walks in, and he's a tireless advocate, and he usually walks out with most of his goals accomplished. But those are always calculations about what kind of support are we going to get from the state and the federal government. And Governor Shapiro has passed 2 bipartisan budgets that give the municipalities what they need. And that's easier said than done, because it's not just about money. It's about understanding what a township needs, or a borough needs, or a city needs, and what the people behind us need. We work really hard on the local level to be able to send more firefighters. Chief Reich talked about this. In the past 5 years, I think we've bought 5 new fire engines, over $5 million with help from many of you, including our great friend, Mr. McClure, at the county. But that doesn't happen without cooperation. And that's what these investments are about. I don't know anybody that says they don't support public safety. And I think that Bob said it can't be one bake sale at a time. It also can't be one side of the aisle at a time. And that's not a Republican or Democrat comment. It's like you need everybody to get behind these investments. And what's happened in the past couple of years, and it doesn't matter if it's your main streets, or your private sector, or your school districts, or public safety, we've seen bipartisan budgets that make investments. And the biggest thing about those investments is it gives your local officials the confidence that you know the state's going to be there. A lot of times we might not take the leap because we don't know what kind of cooperation, collaboration is going to come from our state officials. But Governor Shapiro is a leader in that way, listening to Bob. I always say Governor Shapiro's best quality is that he's the best listener I've ever seen. He doesn't forget anything. And when he sits down with Bob or anybody else throughout the state of Pennsylvania, he gets an idea in his head, and then it's how do we get a plan that, as we say around here, isn't about feeling like you're helping people, but it's about actually helping people. And that's what today is about. It's about the idea that a few people came out to help you and your family a few nights ago, and it's about you and your administration working with everybody behind us and in front of us, wanting to help the great people of this Commonwealth. And Governor, I would just finish my comments by saying it's like, there's often a trust deficit in this country with people in the government because people say things and they don't follow up. One of the reasons why Bethlehem's getting on all these lists and we're seeing all this investment is because we keep our promises. But you keep your promise to the state of Pennsylvania. You said when you're campaigning, you've said this for years, I'm not going to forget about you guys. I'm going to keep coming to every corner of this state. And you do that. And we can't say thank you enough for that. So thank you, Governor.
Thank you.
And I will now turn it over to one of our other tireless advocates for our community here in Bethlehem, Senator Lisa Buskell.
Thank you, Willie. Governor, welcome home.
Good to be back. It's only been a week or so.
I know. I actually think you're going to be eligible to vote here.
Good for you.
No, I hope I get your vote. Anyway, I'm here just to say thank you to the governor for being here again. And, you know, just looking at what happened in the past week, you understand now how critical, I mean, a lot of people understand how critical it is for our firefighters and the thanks that we should be out there giving them. And I echo what every other person has said is, I can't go through my community without somebody asking how you and your family are doing. And especially about the children. There's something about your family and your children that people were, they were heartbroken to hear what happened, but they feel for you, they love you, and we all do. So with that, you know, they're talking about the grant money, and this is what I always say about Governor Shapiro. He has such common sense approaches to everything. It's the hallmark of his governorship up to this point. And this is just another example with another additional $30 million, you know, in a competitive grant program on top of the grants that we already give out there. I brought my helmet here today that I was given to me about 15 years ago at this station because of a grant that I got for a ladder truck. And I just want to tell you thank you, firefighters, because, you know, we might get grants out there, but you were so kind to even put my district number on here. And I had to just show you that I've kept it to this point, that I value you too. And I just want to keep these grants going and going and going because I know how important, I know how expensive those trucks are and all equipment is. And then from a personal standpoint, my husband was a volunteer firefighter at Waco, when we lived down there. And you know, he would go out at so many calls, but people think it's just responding to fires. And it's not just fire. My husband, I remember vividly on New Year's Eve night, there was an accident on a 78, and he's like, Lee, I gotta go. And I'm like, well, wait, we're heading out to a party. It's a New Year's Eve party with our friends. And he goes, it's a big accident, gotta go. And I just was, you know, you're right. Somebody could die at that roadway, and you gotta go. And so I sat there and watched TV with the fireworks and stuff from other countries, another thing that worked on New Year's Eve. But, it just demonstrates that firefighters do a lot more. He would even go and pump out basements. Do you know that firefighters do that at times? I know volunteer firefighters do. They pump out basements when basements flood. And these are the things that some people really don't think about. And I remember even being out there on the roadway, with the hats out and the buckets out, asking for money. I would stand out there and somebody would give me $1 or $2, and I know how much they made. And I'm like, oh no, cough up $20. I'm not taking the $1 or $2. So they had me do that a lot on the roadways. Anyway, this is all about helping our firefighters and the budget that we're going to pass. I think this one's a no-brainer. I don't think we're going to have any argument about this one, Governor Shapiro. And you proposed it. It's common sense. It's going to work. And thank you, Fire Company 6, for this awesome help.
I want to bring up members of our House delegation now who do great work in Harrisburg every day for the Lehigh Valley, starting with Representative Jeannie McNeil.
Thank you, Governor. I'm happy to be here at Memorial Fire Station and also back to my hometown area, Bethlehem. I always look forward to coming back. I'm very happy to support your vision of $30 million in grant money to continue safety training and equipment, not only to keep all the firemen and firewomen safe, but also for our residents. And again, like all of us said, my heart was broken with what happened with all of you. And I think about your children and your wife and you as you struggle with this. And I'm glad everything's okay. Thankful to all the firemen. So I look forward to standing with my colleagues and working with the governor to make sure this budget is passed so that we can get the funding that is so badly needed to keep the firefighters and their families and everyone else in the Commonwealth safe. And I'd like to introduce Jennifer O'Mara, who is a champion for firefighter safety, and I truly am honored every time to add my name to pieces of legislation she passes. Thank you.
Still morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jen O'Mara, and I am a state rep from Delaware County. Most of you don't know me, but I was so grateful to Governor Shapiro and his team for inviting me today, and really just want to echo what everyone is saying. We're so glad that you and your family are okay, and so grateful to the first responders who responded that day and minimized the damage at really what is the People's House in Pennsylvania. When I received the invitation to come here today and saw that it was in Bethlehem, the first thing I did was text my good friend Bob Brooks, who has been one of my partners in working on legislation in Harrisburg. He's bringing me back here in 2 weeks for the convention that state firefighters are holding here in Bethlehem. And I really would not have been able to accomplish what we did last October without Bob. So I got elected in, I'll be very brief, in 2018, and the reason I ran for office is because I was inspired by my dad's service. My dad was a firefighter in the Philadelphia Fire Department for 25 years, one of those people who ran into danger when everyone else was running away, and he was my idol, my hero, and he meant so much to me. When I was 13, tragically, my dad died by suicide, 30 minutes after completing a shift with the Philadelphia Fire Department. As I grew older and became more aware of other first responders dealing with mental health issues, I decided to run for office and try to make my dad's legacy the paramount issue that I worked on in Harrisburg. And that is why, since I got there in 2019, until I think it was October 30th, 2024, I was working on legislation to expand workers' comp for post-traumatic stress injury. I was so grateful that Governor Shapiro, under his leadership, helped advocate for us. We were able to get the bill finalized out of both chambers almost unanimously, pretty close to unanimously, and that bill will go into effect later this year. But supporting mental health, as we all know, is only one piece of the puzzle when it comes to supporting our first responders. Fire departments need our help now more than ever to ensure that they have the resources they need for recruitment, for retention, for equipment. In the community that I live in, we have almost all volunteer firefighters, and they are struggling right now to make sure they have enough people to come to the job and that they have resources to support them. So that is why I was so grateful to see Governor Shapiro continue that fight with his budget proposal this year to not only add $30 million more to our grants, but to make sure that we are also working on health issues like cancer screenings. We lose first responders to suicide, we also are more likely to lose them to cancer, and I think addressing both of those issues is going to be critical. So I just want to thank you all for being here today. Thanks all of my colleagues who really have shown a dedication to first responders in Harrisburg in both chambers and on both sides of the aisle. But the job is not finished until the budget is signed, so we will continue working until that happens. Thank you.
I'm gonna take some questions. Before I do, I want to see if Representative Samuelson or Representative Schlossberg have anything they want to add. Okay, so now I gotta take questions? Yeah. Okay. If there's any questions?
The Harrisburg Fire Chief said that had the governor's mansion had sprinklers, a fire suppression system, it wouldn't have spread the way it did.
Yeah.
Do you think there needs to be a change in Pennsylvania law that requires sprinklers at residences?
Well, as to sprinklers in the governor's residence, Secretary McNeil of the Department of General Services is working through that now, and he can give you an update as it specifically relates to the residents. Second, I think that's an issue that lawmakers I know have been looking at over a number of years. It's something we're going to look at even closer now and see if there can be some bipartisan consensus around responsible common sense action there.
What are your thoughts with the layoffs at NAC?
My thoughts on the layoffs at MAC? Deeply troubled. You know, Senator Boswell referenced that I was here in the Lehigh Valley a couple of weeks ago talking about the tariffs and the tariff war that the president has started. My concern, as I outlined at the brewery that day, was really twofold. Number one, that costs are going to go up. And number two, that the private sector is going to keep capital in their pockets. I mean, they're not going to invest in either their workforce or expanding their operations. This announcement by MAC is an example of how the tariffs are negatively impacting Pennsylvania. In fact, in the notice I received from MAC last night, they cited tariffs as one of the reasons for their need to lay off between 250 and 350 people or so. I think that's really unfortunate. I'm hopeful that the president will back off of this unilateral action on tariffs, create some calm in the marketplace as opposed to the chaos that exists now, and allow great private companies, iconic companies like MAC, to feel the comfort and the peace of mind to know that it's a safe time to invest in the future, whether in their product line or in their workers. Unfortunately, too many of them feel right now as a result of the chaos that the president's brought from these tariffs. Now's the time to hold and not invest, and that's really unfortunate for the Lehigh Valley.
Is there anything being done at the state level to kind of reassure companies like MAC to kind of just hunker down and wait for some resolution? So I know that a lot of people are worried about economics, obviously, as a result.
Myself and Secretary of the Department of Community and Economic Development, Secretary Seiger, have been reaching out to businesses all across Pennsylvania. But let's be candid, there's only so much we can do to calm nerves in the markets or calm nerves with the private sector. As a result of the president's actions, there's real chaos out there in the economic marketplace. And there are no words Secretary Seiger and I can share with a private company, MAC or otherwise here in Pennsylvania, that can calm those national and international worries until the president either backs off these tariffs or makes changes to them to give people comfort to know that it's a good time to invest. I fear that we're going to see more like this. We're going to see more rising prices, more layoffs, more companies not investing in the future. And that's bad for the Pennsylvania economy. It's bad for the economy of this country.
Governor, given your announcement here today, was there anything that the fire department in Harrisburg did not have or any equipment that could have helped in their response to?
I'm not aware of any, but I think that's a question for the chief. They did not say to me that they needed some additional equipment in order to fight that fire, but the chief should speak for himself.
Time for two more.
Governor, on the topic of the upcoming state budget, are there any concerns about cuts at the federal level that could affect initiatives like grant programs for local fire departments?
Yes. Cuts at the federal level could negatively impact this Commonwealth and our fiscal position. Understand that when I announced my budget in February, we had a roughly $11-12 billion surplus. A lot of other states around us are dealing with deficits. We had a surplus. I propose not only investing in things like education and public safety and economic development, I also propose cutting taxes, frankly, cutting them more aggressively than even my Republican colleagues in Harrisburg are going to do because they want to spur on economic growth. I think it's further important to understand that the Commonwealth receives significant amounts of funds from the federal government. And so if they cut those funds back, as they have in agriculture, it's just one example, that makes it incredibly hard. It makes it harder for us to do our jobs, to make the investments and provide the tax cuts that we want to be able to provide. Let me give you just one example. There's a lot of talk at the federal level of cuts to Medicaid. We'll see where it ultimately ends up, but it would seem to me that for them to be able to do the tax deal they want to do, it's going to be very hard to not have some impact on Medicaid. Understand that about $30 billion of what we spend on Medicaid, of roughly $50 billion or so, comes from the federal government. So if they make cuts to Medicaid, we can't make that up at the state level. And so people are going to be thrown off Medicaid. Folks won't have access to critical healthcare services. Take education. We talk about cutting the education spend from the federal level to the states. Much of that money goes directly to the school districts, not actually through the state budget. But we're looking to try and add about $1 billion in new investment in our schools across Pennsylvania. And the federal government right now invests over $1 billion. If any of that money is cut at the federal level, we're going to be clamoring to try and make those new investments. At the same time, federal money is being taken away and our school districts will suffer. Now, I think we got to recognize these budgets are not passed at the federal level yet. So I don't want to be an alarmist. I'm just going based on what our congressmen and senators and the president has said. We'll see what their ultimate budget looks like. But to get to the heart of your question, any cuts at the federal level are going to make it way harder for us to make investments in education and safety and economic development and cut taxes for Pennsylvanians. Them pushing off the challenges at the federal level to states or municipalities like the mayor has to run is only going to make lives much tougher here and budgets much tougher to pass. We've been successful being able to pass budgets on a bipartisan basis. I want to be able to do that again, and I hope our federal partners aren't working against us in that process. Okay.
Is there an estimate yet for how much it's going to cost to restore the governor's residence?
The Secretary of EGS can provide full accounting for that. I do want to note that earlier today, all of the former living governors and first ladies issued a statement of support for Gloria Day. And it was incredibly moving. They also are helping raise funds privately to help offset some of the costs of restoring and rebuilding the governor's residence. And that's just incredibly moving to Gloria and I, that they would come together as a group. I don't recall, Schloss and I were talking about this, I don't recall a time when the former governors and first ladies came together in this manner. And for them to do that, to help residents that they all lived in, worked in, made memories in, is very, very special. And it will also be a help to the taxpayers. But as to the specifics of the breakdown of costs, Secretary McNeil can provide all of that to you once it's fully assessed.
You said on GMA that you hadn't heard from the president this morning.